Welcome to another edition of Copeland's Corner and Headliners on the Headlines. This is our first show of the year. We started right about 2 weeks before the shutdown is when we started. And we're still here, and folks are still watching us and listening to us. So thank you for that. Have a favor to ask of you, and that is to please, if you can, just like us. Like us on whatever platform you are listening to or watching us on. And if you are watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. We're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. Once we're able to do that, we can do the show live. So I think we're about halfway there right now with subscribers. So I would appreciate it very much. Just didn't cost anything. Just like us and subscribe. Great show today. We had a wonderful conversation. It was Tom Sawyer, or I should say it is Tom Sawyer and Carlos Alazraqui and Johnny Steele. And we talk about a lot of things, the upcoming administration. We talk about American imperialism. We talk about the fact that all the big tech giants, Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Musk are now part of MAGA, and what that means in terms of propaganda and misinformation being spread. We hit the whole gambit. It was a very, very lively debate. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you learn something. Watch. Joining me this week, Tom Sawyer, who you know, who is one of the producers on this show, and my fill-in when I am sick or on vacation. The great Johnny Steele is back with us, a winner of the San Francisco Comedy Competition, and Carlos Alazraqui is with us, also a winner of the San Francisco Comedy Competition. You also know his voice work on Rocco's Modern Life and voice of the Taco Bell Dog, and what am I forgetting? There's so much. I'm forgetting so much.
There's a ton of stuff.
There's a ton of 911.
Reno 911, of course. Well, you actually see him. Reno 911.
Fairly Odd Parents, all that kind of stuff, and it's a couple new things going on. But thank you. Yes.
Good to see you guys. It is a pleasure. Thanks for being on the first show of the year. And let's
wait a minute. You didn't mention my voice work on the porch. Hey, put that down. That doesn't belong to you.
Get off my grass.
Why don't you start kissing her instead of talking so much?
Yeah. Look out! I'm set my dog at you.
All right, thank you for the levity, because the fact this is heavy duty.
Heavy stuff.
I don't know. Let me ask you this before I get into this. I since the election, I have really just had one eye on the news. Because of the fact I'm burnout, I'm despondent, and I can just put my head in the sand and act like all is normal, and that January 20th is not coming. And now with the show back, and the fact that I'm bringing back the Great American Shit Show again, I thought I was done with that show, but nope. Monologues in the Age of Trump. It's going to be called the Great American Shit Show. The Resistance Begins. And I'll start that on Inauguration Day in Marin. I'm going to do it. So I'm back to reading stuff, and it's just, so have you guys been as engaged, more or less engaged, since the election?
No, I see snippets like on YouTube. I can listen to commentators on YouTube, but I can't watch CNN, can't watch MSNBC. And every time I see a snippet, especially on CNN, it's always with Scott Jennings, who I want to get like one of those like inflatable punching bags, with his face on it, because I can't stand that guy. He's just such a smug, like, asshole. And the media in general, half of MSNBC is okay, but for the most part, I've dumped CNN a while ago, and to me, it's just this. They're still doing the same stuff they did before. They still haven't figured out. No one's interested. That's why your ratings are ridiculously low. I mean, they're ludicrously low. And so they don't do anything to move the ball for me as far as information, as far as reading the tea leaves. I'm done with CNN, especially. I eventually imagine I'll go back to MSNBC, but right now I'm just kind of been on YouTube. There's a couple of people I like on YouTube, and that's about it.
Carlos?
Yeah, no, as a father of young girls, 13 and 10, it is hard to both be present with today's world and also be sane. So like Tom, I dip in, not really with news stories. I'll check a Twitter or a Huffington Post article from time to time. Some things you can't escape. Trump's comments about all hell will break loose, blaming Newsom for the fire. That's going to get in your face. And it just serves no purpose because overall I'm sad. And when you dip into the news, it sort of reinforces the fact that you can't do anything about it and it becomes more frustrating. So no, I'm just trying to live life when I can. I do Stephanie Miller on Wednesday mornings. I come on your show and that's about it because it really, it does not serve well.
It's soul sucking.
Yeah, it is. It is. I liken to what's happening now as the second season of Squid Games, where the first Squid Games we played with Trump, we knew he was killing people. Literally, people were dying. We saw it happening. We escaped the island, and we tried to warn people, don't play this game again. And like this show, they're betting to stay on the island, and we're like, no, we would have gotten off the island if you would have voted for Kamala Harris. And we're stuck on this island, and now we have to risk, our lives for everybody, for those that made the decision for us. So that's how I feel.
Johnny?
I pay attention, but I tried this. And probably most people on the left don't do this. I've spent more time trying to figure out what the hell is going on rather than just listen to MSNBC or, I read, did you ever see that article from that guy from NPR where he talked about, he worked at NPR for years and he came out and basically said there was a far left agenda here and so forth and it affects the news. And, I think it was something like 90% of the CEOs or the head of the news departments of NPR stations across the country are registered Democrats. That may seem fine on one level, but you're not getting the full story. And I studied media in college, but especially was interested in logical fallacies, manipulation. One of the classes with propaganda, persuasion, manipulation, and it just, you can see it all over on both sides and everything. So I sort of tried to stand in the middle more and watch a little of this and a little of that and see if, anybody knows in any war, even Don Corleone from The Godfather will tell you sort of need to know, hold your friends close, but your enemies closer. So I sort of really wanted to see what was going on. And so I've done more of that, but no, less than I used to, partly because personal. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I got whacked by COVID. I owned a part of a development business in Oakland, real estate development. Nobody was buying, houses in Oakland, but not many, fewer people were in the early 2020s. And so that business went kaput. My wife and I split. COVID canceled 90% of my gigs for a year and a half. Never gotten back on my feet again. A couple of minor health. We're all at that age now. You're like, why am I fainting? You go in the doctor. Hey, no big deal. Your heart just doesn't beat every once in a while. You'll be fine. Your second, I said, is my heart failing? No, it's really your electronic system and the message isn't getting sent to your second chamber. And then, it's no big deal. Just try not to drive or,
Johnny, your heart is just like that out-of-tune guitar in your lap.
So like a lot of people, the world changed for me with COVID and with the economics of COVID and the gigs all being canceled. And I had personal stuff of the wife and I, amicable, we're friends, but we split. And so that changed a lot. And then just 2 years later on the other side, I just couldn't get up every morning and worry about what was happening in politics 3,000 miles away. I had to start to worry about whether or not, I was going to be able to pay my bills or whether or not I was going to be mentally healthy or whether or not I was going to retire from comedy or get back on my feet. So a mixed bag of answer there, but yeah, a little of each.
Well, they say that's what most Democrats have done is hit pause is how it was described.
Just need to
after the election.
But Brian, I wanted to get your perspective because I sat with Cedric Yarborough right after the election and he said, quote unquote, us black folks are done. We're just done.
Well, I'll tell you, one in five black men voted for Trump. I don't understand that. 1 in 5 Latinos voted for Trump. Now, the reason I don't get this is because, as far on the black man's side, he has said, and he doesn't have the power to do this, but he said that if elected, he was going to give full immunity to all police officers so they can never be held legally liable for anything that they ever do. So seeing as young black men and young Latino men are the primary people who are most likely to be stopped, most likely to be pulled over, most likely to be interrogated, most likely to be shot because a traffic stop went wrong or the cop, thought you were reaching for a gun when you were pulling out your registration from the glove box. Why in the hell would you do that? You know, why, and Latinos especially, I just don't get the way he talks about Mexicans being rapists, the way he's going to do mass deportation. And if you're not one of the ones who are being deported, I'm sure you got a relative or a friend or somebody who's married to someone who is liable to be deported. Why would you support that?
Well, here's the crazy part to me. It's like what you're saying is true, but why would you vote for an adjudicated, self-confessed sexual assaulter? Why would you vote for a felon? Why would you vote for a legally proven con artist? I mean, this guy paid $25 million in a settlement suit it's a class action suit for his fake university. I mean, he is the living embodiment of the 10 Commandments, all broken. Arguably, he's even committed murder if you consider the way he handled COVID.
I think the answer is to why is that the cult manipulates all, right? If you really believe that the cause of the Democrats losing was wokeness and open borders, then
you're Bill Maher.
Then any Republican candidate could have won the election based on those things that you were afraid of. And the fact is, that's not true. That's not why they won. Misinformation and a cult of personality and wanton manipulation of the media is why Trump won. Because that's so as a Latino thinking that, yeah, he's right. Because there are some Latinos that are conservative. I remember being on a bus on the way to LAFC and we talked to this immigration lawyer, a Latino woman, Mexican. And she goes, I got to tell you, I'm very frustrated as an immigration lawyer where I do see immigrants exploit their kids to come before the judge and try to trick them to let the whole family in. And they're exploiting their children. And that pisses me off as somebody whose parents had to go through the proper channels. So yeah, that does exist. But I think the reason that people voted for him en masse, whether you're a minority or not, is because you got fooled. You became afraid of the other. Because if it was, like I said, we had a comprehensive border policy. We were trying to fix the Middle East. We were trying to fix the economy. And if it was so bad with wokeness and I can't say what I want to say anymore, then any Republican candidate could have beat that. So I don't buy this whole Bill Maher bullshit about the Democrats would have just listened to me. It had nothing to do with us. And when I mentioned Cedric, it seemed to me that he implied that black folks are done trying to tell you people a qualified black woman over this white dude. We try to tell you, Obama was pretty good.
Yeah,
we're trying to tell you to listen.
I don't put that to any race or nobody has. I mean, everybody feels done because we chose a criminal over a prosecutor.
I think the machismo of Latino men.
Dark side. We voted for Darth Vader over Luke Skywalker. You know, it's.
I can't.
The Joker over Batman.
I can't imagine a conversation like, hey, bro, hey, fucker, who you fucking voting for? The fucking Kamala Harris, who's like AG and a senator and educated, or Trump? Oh, I love the strong woman, man. Like, that stuff ain't happening. That's your 1 in 5 Latino that ain't voting for a strong black woman. I'm sorry.
Johnny,
I'd say for all cultures, white, black, they're not voting for a strong woman and that's what was pounded into us. The Joe Rogans of the world, the Andrew Tates, the Jordan Peterson. What's happening to masculinity? I don't know. And we bought into it, and it's all bullshit.
No, we didn't buy into it, but a segment did. A certain segment of this country did. Johnny, you look like you got something to say.
Well, one of the most common things people do in a debate is they cite one reason. There's almost never one reason for anything. I mean, there might be one reason why the dinosaurs went away. The idea that this or that didn't matter. Of course, these things matter. I mean, James Carville, I think, probably knows more than we do about Democratic policies. James Carville's been screaming this for years. You get out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning in Minneapolis. You're 58 years old. You got to go plumb toilets outdoors. Your wife has leukemia. She can't get her treatments. You've never been out of the country on vacation. And then every time you turn on a Democrat, he's talking about how privileged you are. How tone deaf are you to not believe that that's going to affect people?
I didn't hear that. That's not who Waltz was for Minnesota.
10 intellectuals and Democratic campaign advisors have been saying this for years. They looked at Oakland, they looked at Portland, they looked at California 10 years ago, voted to make all retail thefts under $1,000 a misdemeanor, the equivalent of jaywalking. And then immediately after, the national level of that kind of crime and the state level were like this. And immediately after it went up, and after George Floyd, it went up more. They saw that, and they don't. It's thing one. Thing two, even quicker. You can't lose a ball game. I played on a lot of football teams for 8 or 9 years. You can't lose a ball game and at the end of the game go, they won because they're racist. They won because they're. What did you do wrong? Did you not hear? Did you not listen? Did you not scout the team? Here's the deal. Everybody and their brother knew Biden was fumbling and stumbling.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's been they pretended for months when everybody, and even after it was so blatantly obvious, the only empathetic moment I've ever seen Trump have in his life is when Biden fumbled and stumbled, and he didn't go, "What's wrong with you, you idiot?" He said, "Gee, I don't know what's going on," or something to that effect. He was actually briefly kind. So, and then even after that, it took days? Weeks. And then after that, there's no primary. The Democrats are screaming about Trump will destroy democracy. Where's our democracy? There's no primary.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me
Who's the candidate that Johnny think could have won this election? Democratic.
Well, before he answers that, let me throw this into the mix. Joe Biden gave what they're calling his exit interview. That was published today. And in it, among other things, he says that it was a mistake for him to have dropped out, and that he would have won.
No.
That he would have won.
No.
This is my argument. To say that the Democrats were out of touch.
Hang on a sec. Let me stop for a second. Charlene, cut this part out. Yeah. Johnny, you can't get up and leave us like that.
Sorry, my dog was not having any of this debate.
That's why you lost this debate, is your dog. No.
Yeah, I put mine in the crate for that exact same reason.
Yeah,
you can't get up during it. And watch the F-bombs, okay, because YouTube will ding us.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So Charlene, we'll cut that out. Let's go back again. Yeah. All right. So Biden says that he made a mistake dropping out and that he would have beaten Trump. No. True or not?
No, false. Absolutely false. He was mentally incapable and incapacitated. He should have dropped out. He said I was going to be a bridge to the new candidacy. But my argument, because Johnny and I are disparate on the reasons for why we lost. I think there are liberal policies that have completely failed, like the $750 misdemeanor and crime going rampant. I think, we were doing better on inflation. We were doing better on infrastructure. We were beating inflation. We were doing better with jobs. We were doing so much better on so many things. I don't think there's a Democratic candidate. I wonder who's the candidate you think could have beat all of this misinformation, because none of the Republicans who were against everything you've said could beat Trump. Who is the Democratic candidate you think we should have put in the race?
Truth, the honest to goodness truth, and I'm going to get hammered for this, but it's true. I think that Newsom would have eaten his lunch.
Okay.
I think that Gavin would have eaten his lunch.
But Johnny, you have a person that since
I think these are fun conversations to have. They're impossible to know. I'm a college football fan. Every year, some FCS team beats an Alabama or Notre Dame at home. Every weekend, there are 5 upsets. It's impossible. I mean, who would have picked Obama out of the pack? A senator for a year or two with some community service? Everyone was used to say, Bernie would have won. Bernie would. Says who? Who knows? People lie in polls. You have no idea. Every weekend, a powerful team goes in and gets its butt kicked. Who knows? This idea that you're going to say who would have won, impossible. You can play this game till the cows come home, but there's, the beauty of it is there's nobody going to prove you wrong because there's no benchmark. There's no nothing.
You sort of seem to complain that there was no primary. So how would a primary have fixed this then?
Number one, the people getting 8-9 months to learn who the candidate is. Sure. Kamala was A, unpopular. I don't know why, but she was very unpopular.
I don't either.
And B, not terribly visible. And she's launched out 8 weeks before the election. And then everything I kept seeing in ads was
12, I think. Was it in 12?
Was it? I thought it was August something, September something. I don't know. But whatever. I mean, not 9 months,
Yeah.
Night after night on the news, debating and talking and honing her craft and whatnot. And then, the right pulled as they would, of course, done. They pulled out a couple of clips of her where she said, I would have done nothing different. When asked, she should have been immediately, what would you have done different? And pick 5 things that they weren't happy about, whether it was a pull out of Afghanistan, whether it was maybe infusing the economy with a little too much cash. So therefore, there was more ready cash, but the supply chains were broken. So inflation went up in part. Inflation goes up for a lot of reasons, but it went up
all around the world, though. That's that's another red herring. I mean, we actually did the best with inflation because it was a worldwide problem.
Sure.
It's always like when somebody goes, I don't want to go to California because all the homeless people. People. Gavin Newsom can't fix the homeless situation because the red states keep sending the homeless people on buses over to here, and the weather's better. Who's going to sit in Montana on a corner?
Plus, our housing prices.
But here's an important thing: the weather's better, but the political climate is better. Have anybody read Michael Schellenberger, a guy who studied public policy, left-wing guy, wanted to come to California and work in San Francisco because he wanted to be among the left-wing capital of public policy. Within 2 or 3 years, he realized everything they were doing in San Francisco was exacerbating the problem. And he wrote a book called San Francisco. And whether you think, we always lay labels, he's conservative, screw him or whatever. I mean, you don't have to read the whole book. Just listen to him debate for an hour and look at charts and graphs, and anybody can bend data, surely, but so partly it's because if you come here, you get free drugs, a hotel room, and a pizza. If you do it in Idaho, you're going to, freeze to death, but also maybe get your ass thrown in the pokey and who knows what all that is.
It's illegal. There are parts of Idaho where they've criminalized homelessness. Well,
instead of doing
the Supreme Court says they can now. The Supreme Court says you can.
But so instead of taking care of the problem, which drives me nuts, because the right, it says put them in jail, shoot them in the back of the head, put them in the ditch. The left is like give them some flowers and some therapy and a candy bar. And the meantime, the real problem is one is we have drug addiction and
mental illness,
mental illness, and we also have this is the thing everybody skips over. Over 40% of homeless people are working. They are working poor. They can't afford a last month's of the deposit on a $3,000 room that they're going to share with 4 other people. It's freaking nuts. And the thing about it is we just completely ignore that. And we go to one side, which is flowers and roses, and the other side, which is a hammer and a punch in the face. And neither one of those things is fixing the actual problem.
Fix it. Right now, Tom, fix it.
What
you're king of the world. Fix it.
Wage. We have a national living wage.
And how do you determine that? How do you determine? I hear that all the time. Tell me how you determine what a national living wage is, because the living wage in California is not the same as the living wage in Idaho.
Because we can walk and chew gum at the same time. That is a sliding scale based on the economy of the state, and this way you can also elevate the living wage in each area. So you are actually making people give a little bit more money towards so they can make some savings, not just make it by, but put some money in the bank or get a better job, have better opportunities. But you need a place where people can land financially, where you can make the money to have housing, where you can make the money to buy groceries, where you can make the money to put a little money in the bank for Christ's sakes. And I said,
Johnny, be there with a note to beep him out.
Okay.
Another part of that situation is to, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought, but is to you would have to separate the population to the homeless people too, because you cannot house women with male homeless people. You'd have to separate those, put more money into social workers, pay them a bigger salary. Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Obviously, tax billionaires, so there's some money available, a fair tax rate of what we pay.
Billionaires
come back to it because I forgot my point and it was really good. But I'm getting old.
Billionaires should not.
I'm doing a lot of that now too. You're walking into rooms with, wondering why I walked in. You're looking for keys that are in my hand. I maybe I need to get checked.
Yeah. So there was a documentary. I'll save Carlos. There was a documentary done by a Seattle news team, and it was called "Seattle is Dying" and what happened to Seattle in like 15 years. And they went to other states where there are programs where they go to people on the streets. Are you a drug addict? You go this way, and you get rehab, and you get all the things you might need to get off drugs. Are you mentally ill? You go this way. If you're just down on your luck economically and otherwise, and you have no job skills for this high-tech world we live in, they send you to a facility where you have a place to live and you choose one of 12 professions that are in demand and you study. Then they halfway house you into a job and so forth. So the solutions exist, but back to the original point, you can't blame people who sit somewhere where this isn't happening and they look at Oakland and they look at Portland and they look at San Francisco crime and sideshows every day and drug people walking out with bags of groceries, and there's no police, and it takes 2 hours for a cop to arrive in a place like Oakland because they've been defunded or they quit or they left or they don't want to be involved anymore.
Call 911 in Oakland. You actually get put on hold.
Yeah. I think
I'm not kidding. You actually get put on hold.
Yeah, some of the top calls were, somebody crawling in your window could take you 45 minutes to an hour. They're like, I'm not exacted with this, but they're way down, maybe down to 60% of what they originally, the city was supposed to have per capita. Yeah. And so you can't operate like that. They're currently closing fire departments in Oakland due to budget cuts and whatnot. So
okay, now in terms of these solutions for homelessness, I'll get you in a second, Carlos. What about people who choose to be homeless? And I know that's not a popular thing to say, but it is the truth. In the East Bay suburb where I live, there is a guy. I've lived over here for about 30 years on this part of town. And there was a guy I saw when I first moved over here who was homeless, there's a park a park and a lake at the end of the street where I live. And there were homeless people live in the lake, and you see him walking up and down the street. And I would give him food from time to time. I saw him maybe about a year ago, and he's still homeless 28 years later. There's no way that you're homeless for 28 years and it's not a choice. Yeah. There's just no way. And I talked to the cops about this guy, and they said, yeah, we know him. He's harmless, but he's got it all worked out. He knows places he can go and get breakfast, get lunch, get dinner. When the weather gets bad, he goes to Palm Springs. Yeah. He summers in Palm Springs.
You're doing it right, man.
And then he comes back here when the weather is better.
It's all relative to the people we kicked out of the country in the first place. They were all darky Indian homeless people just living in teepees and being nomadic because we killed their food supplies. But yeah, the other thing was venture capitalists that are buying all the homes and raising all of the property rates that people are homeless. But you're right, Brian. As somebody gets more conservative every day on social issues, if people are refusing help or refusing to go somewhere because they say, I don't want to have to follow rules, I don't want to have to get clean, I don't want to have to stop taking drugs, then as Johnny said, look to these states where like, well, if you don't want to, you can't be homeless here because you're leaving your garbage all over the place, you're going here. And as cruel as that might sound, I think it's safer for everybody. It is efficient use of our tax dollars. I like the tiny home villages that we have here in Los Angeles. Schwarzenegger donated. There's one in North Hollywood. There's about 200 little mini homes, 100 square feet. You have to enter the community. I think they give you a mailing address so that if you're looking for a job, you have a postal address. You have shared bathrooms, but you have to stay clean. You have to obey the rules. And then you have a place to stay. So, it does upset me that people refuse help, especially when there's squalor around them and you might have kids or a kid's playground. Now our community can't use that playground anymore because of I would say it's selfishness because you have help available.
Yeah.
So, just a quick note, you're talking about this, civil rights sometimes prevent this from happening. We all know the story of the guy who was threatening people on the subway a while back, and the ex-Marine stood up and held him down, and the guy died. Well, do a little bit diver, and everyone is yelling, oh heavens, the system failed him. The system failed the guy. He was given a facility. He was given a facility with rehab and whatever all else, and he left. And there was no way to keep him. You couldn't lock him down in the facility. In his history, he was convicted of something and sent to this facility where he could get everything he needed, and he left. I mean, I don't know what you can do about that. I'm not a lawyer.
No, I don't either.
Lawyer, I don't know, but that's a fact. The system offered him, help, and he chose not to have it and go back on the streets.
Yeah, extra security. At that, I'm going to stop. I'll give you the last word on this, Tom, and I got some things I want to jump into. Go ahead.
But getting back to the point, and this ties in with what the Democrats need to do to change things. They need to go with a more populist message, things that actually fix things. Now, I've listened to you guys talk about the homeless, and if you said to me, hey, as a homeless person, you get 3 doors to choose from. You get this where we help you get on your feet because you're working. We appreciate you working. We're going to help you get a place to live, and you're going to pay a little rent, and we'll get you eventually, hopefully, to another place where you can get be a better part of the community. And then the mental health thing, and then the drug addiction thing. You get 3 doors to choose from. The door where you get to live at the playground does not exist. After that, you get to go to jail. I'm all for that. I say, you know what? We're here to help. If you're helping yourself, we want to help you even more. If you want to get straight, we want to help you. If you want to get, if you're crazy, you stay in the crazy place till you're not crazy anymore, or you just stay there for the rest of your life, but you don't shit in the park. That's what you don't do. And I'm
Or shoot
all
up
for
in the
that. As a
park.
liberal, as a Democrat, or shoot up in the park, or do anything. You shouldn't be sleeping there, doing anything that you otherwise would be doing at home. So.
All right, let me switch. I need to switch gears.
Can I just add one last thing because we see
final thing. Go ahead.
We started talking about Trump and everything. Why would people vote for Trump and all this? But you look at California. What are we? 60-some% Democratic, 30-some%.
Orange County's different.
Yeah, but
we're overwhelmingly. I mean, we got a
state.
blue legislature. We've got a supermajority in the state legislature.
Yeah. So we had a couple things on the state legislature, on the state election last time. We call them propositions in California. People can vote on these things to become laws. And
referendums.
One was to put people in jail quicker and for longer periods of time for drug use or possession and crimes, property crimes. Last I looked, I can't remember. I think it was 71% of Californians voted for that. We had another one on there about more statewide rent control, more government bodies telling you what you can and can't do with your home if you decide to go, live near your daughter who's in college in, New Hampshire for a year, who you could rent, and overwhelmingly, I think 70% of people voted against that in California. San Francisco, you had a liberal mayoral candidate. Boop, no, thank you. You had a black incumbent woman candidate. Boop, no, thank you. San Francisco went for the more conservative, might be a billionaire, I'm not sure, guy. So it's not just Trump. It is social policies. It is, to a degree, that there was a small hyper woke division of the Democrats who were pushing in a direction that most Americans didn't want.
Alameda County, California, we had the district attorney was recalled.
Pamela Price was thrown out overwhelmingly.
First African American woman DA, but she ran on a platform of reducing or eliminating mass incarceration. And the problem was, and we all, the reason she won the reason I voted for her the first time was because I was thinking it was things like possession, for example. People going to jail just for simple possession and going to jail for years for it is ridiculous. So why am I, as a taxpayer, paying for them to be in jail? Put the dangerous people in jail. Well, what she did was she had the policy that nobody goes to jail for anything, basically. She told her
Republican nomination.
She told her ADAs that, to avoid jail time, if the law says that the person must go to jail, seek the minimum sentence. And we're talking, the big thing was there was a guy who committed 3 homicides. 3. One was an innocent bystander. One was a witness. He killed a witness, and I forget who the third one was. And she wanted to let him go with 7 years.
One was Brian, remember, one was the guy who wanted to be a police officer. I don't think he had the money to get in the academy or whatever. So he was a security guard, I think, at a Home Depot. And some people came in and were walking out with some batteries or something. He stopped them and took the stuff back that they were stealing. More or less, this is a true part of the story. And they went out and came back with a gun and shot him. And those people had been in the catch and release program forever. And the parents had just had enough. And they made a big case of it, as I would have, were it my son. So my point is, it's these policies are unpopular with liberals and Democrats. So what do you think some moderate Republican thinks of them in
there are no moderate
Ohio?
Republicans. That's the problem. There are no moderate Republicans anymore. They're far right extremists. I mean, that's who's in control of the party. And that's the only way you get elected. If you're a moderate Republican, and you're a congressperson, you get primaried. You get primaried
somebody
with some
reasonable
right-wing
like Adam Kinzinger is told to shut up and get censored for telling the truth. Liz Cheney telling the truth.
Liz Cheney. I hope that Biden pardons her on the way out. There's talk that he's going to pardon her, even if she hasn't done anything.
Kinzinger doesn't want it.
Really?
Because he's actually a brave person as opposed to the rapist thug. Speaking of crime, if people were so upset by crime, then why are you putting a convicted rapist, sexual assault, felonious 34 counts, adjudicated?
Well, just to note, Trump was never convicted of rape. I hear this all the time. I mean,
the judge technically said it was a sexual assault. And Johnny, let's be clear, like Clinton, he raped people. This is not conjecture.
Well, but here's the deal. You can't call people convicted rape. What, you're crossing a line. Do you see? How are you different from them if you cross a line and say,
that's why I say adjudicated sexual assault.
Not true. He's not a convicted
right. It was sexual assault, but the judge said that it's the equivalent of rape, and what you were convicted of was rape. That's what the judge said.
Yeah,
exactly. And I'm just when we say that, we're quoting the judge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd also like to add-
However, he sued Stephanopoulos for saying rapist, and ABC paid $15 million, which I think was bullshit. They never should have settled on that.
There seems to be only two choices. There was so much crime and so much liberals in it that I had to vote for Trump. That's not true. California could be in the worst shape possible, but that doesn't mean you have to vote for that guy. You could still vote for a third party, and which would help a more moderate candidate like Kamala Harris win. That's just like, I was forced to vote for Trump. No, you weren't. Just because things were bad, you don't vote for this lying sexual assaulter.
Okay, but if you voted for a third, for a third party, you were voting for Trump. That's it. If you yourself said that on this program, on this podcast, a number of times. You said
but no, if you were a Republican voting third party, it would have helped Kamala Harris because those Republican votes would have gone to Trump.
Well, two quick notes. One, people are missing this point. People are not, a lot of people, you're putting everybody in a block here. People voted for Trump, many, not because of who he was, but because of, in spite of who he was. They voted for him not because of who he was, but in spite of who he was. You get that? They don't necessarily like him. That's thing one. And here's a little lesson on division of where you get your information and how you side with your tribe. I remember Bill Clinton. I remember endless claims. And I remember feminists coming out and supporting him. When there were 5 women? And I believe Gloria Steinem, I could be wrong, I don't want to get sued, but some feminist groups or leaders came out and supported him in that particular issue.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned Bill Clinton. I didn't
also
skate over
times,
that.
Though. I mean, at times do change.
But I'm just saying, you can't ignore that far left feminist liberals came out and defended him on that issue.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Didn't just vote for him.
Yeah, they buried the Paula Jones story. I believe they're both on the Epstein pals list, whether it's a flight.
Yeah, I believe they are too.
I hate them both. Just so we're on the record, I wish they'd both.
But at least Clinton was intelligent.
At least. All right. Well, one of the things that he ran on and that he battered Biden on was the price of groceries and the price of gas. And so now he's already breaking promises before he's even sworn in. He's saying that there's nothing I can do about the price of groceries. That's supply chain issues. And there's nothing I can do about the price of gas. And these issues will not be a focus of my administration. So there's so many people that voted for him because groceries and gas are so expensive. Well, it's something that the president has no control over anyway. Yeah. And he said, I'm not going to do it. So my question is this. Do you think, because there's going to be a lot of this stuff, do you think that the people who voted for him are going to have a rude awakening? Do you think that they're going to have buyer's remorse, or do you think they're just going to keep drinking the Kool-Aid?
I think it's going to get worse. I said on Stephanie Miller this morning, I have this really odd premonition that the people will have had enough, and the next people to raid the Capitol are going to be his own voters because they're going to get pissed off. They're going to go, you tricked us, man. We gave you 2 chances, and you freaking pull the wool over our eyes. Now we're pissed at you. I feel like it's going to end up in a hole like Saddam Hussein.
I just don't see it happening.
What are they going to do though? Because this is his last term. He can't run again.
He's looking for a loophole. Is what the word is.
Well, of course he's always looking for a loophole. That's
his last potential at a full term. It may be halfway through his term that this happens, Tom.
But I think this is going to happen. Things will go down. I mean, the eggs isn't it largely caused by bird flu? The interest rates will eventually go down. They will eventually likely go down. And so
they were going down.
They were going down. I know because I wouldn't bore you with details, but I got trapped in an adjustable loan. But anyway,
oh God.
So, but they will go down. And so, we always think that politics happens today and tomorrow and next week. Politics is 4 years from now, 3 years from now. So will interest rates be 2.5%? I hope in a year or two. Will eggs be whatever the way I don't eat eggs, so I don't know whatever they would cost before. Will they be close to that in a year? Maybe generally.
I just paid $10. I just paid $10 for 18.
Really?
And it was the last one.
Yeah.
It was literally the last one.
Don't buy eggs at 7-Eleven.
Mm-hmm. Why not? I like their sushi's pretty good.
But but the truth is this, if you've studied economics at all, and I know only a little bit of it, but prices, the interest rate, the inflation rate goes down, but prices don't generally go down in general inflation. They only go down when there's a shortage by a particular cause. So bird flu will go away theoretically. And so the egg prices will go down. Is the cost of most of these other things going to go down? No, because because wages and everything else goes up to meet it. And then, to a certain extent. And so we just get
capitalism rears its ugly head.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like we never, when do prices go down when they go up? They go down a little, they go up 20%, they come down 2%. You know,
and that's partly because
and price gouging is a real thing, a real issue that the right is just dismissing as a liberal fantasy. But a perfect example is Kellogg's. Kellogg's had record profits, paid record bonuses to its CEO, top executives, and then yet raised the price of their cereal by something like 15 or 20% anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, if you had this experience, I go into a grocery store, I go to Safeway, and every Safeway only has 2 checkers at check stands. Yeah. Prices are to the roof, but you either stand in line or you check out yourself.
They'll be replaced by Musk's AI robots anyways, Yeah, the price of eggs is concerning him, and then all he says, if those hostages are not returned, the Mr. No War president, all hell is going to break loose. All he has to do is be vague, like a circus barker. There's a great show inside. I'm not going to tell you what's inside, but it's a great show. I like him. He tells the truth. It's unbelievable. This guy who started an insurrection, and Jimmy Dore, it was an insurrection. There were weapons there. And if you look at the literal...
Let me stop you on that. Have you heard what he said about that in his press conference? That the insurrection was the first insurrection with no weapons. He says that no one was armed. He says that no one was killed except for Ashley Babbitt, and they don't understand why Ashley Babbitt was killed. And he says that he's going to pardon everybody within the first 9 minutes he's president. That's his words. He's going to pardon even the violent ones. He's going to pardon them within the first 9 minutes. And then he said that this entire thing was set in motion by Hezbollah and the FBI.
Unbelievable.
That's what he says.
I'm so sad. I'm so sad.
And people will buy it. People will believe it.
An American that this is how it's so dystopian. I have 2 girls. I feel like you don't have to stand for the national anthem. You don't have to say the Pledge of Allegiance. You really don't need to do it because it's all bullshit. It's all jingoistic bullshit.
It is. I hate to say that, but it is.
Oligarchs that run this country. This guy, the Republicans had no balls. Everything that happened after January 6th is the fault of Republicans. This country could have healed and come together to have better policies for everything that Johnny talked about. Instead, we wasted all this time trying to keep this guy away, and the Republicans were ballless.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about accountability for a minute. Basically, Trump has gotten rid of all of his legal problems. He doesn't have to worry about paying for anything for any of his crimes, being held accountable. The one place where he has been held accountable in New York was, 34 felony counts in New York. He will be sentenced next week before the inauguration. And the judge in the case has basically said in advance that there will be no punishment.
Yeah.
That there will be no jail time. There will be no probation. He will not have to do anything else for the court, but he will still retain the label of being a convicted felon, and that's it. And
which he already is.
And if there is a right-wing governor ever elected in the state of New York, a governor could pardon him and wash all that away. Mm-hmm. So my question is, what happens in that court when the next guy comes along who's not Trump, that doesn't have $1 billion, who is not the president of the United States or running for it or former president of the United States and is found guilty of that same crime? How can you send him to jail with a straight face after letting this guy walk on everything?
It's pretty bad. It's pretty dystopian. Yeah, he's above the law. He's literally above the law. And,
he is.
When we said, you better vote for Kamala Harris or you're going to see the end of democracy. I said this on Stephanie Miller this morning. It's happening. We're not, you're crazy. You're overreacting. No, we're not. Wait and see. This guy's sick, man. You saw the first administration. You saw the insurrection. You saw how he treats the press. You saw what he's doing now. Mm-hmm. Hezbollah is going to be held. We told you. We told you. If you think he's going to come around and fix anything, no.
Okay, but if all their news sources and everywhere they go for information is telling them something different, and let me tell you what. So we've had a couple of dangerous things happen. Yesterday, Mark Zuckerberg announced that he is eliminating fact checking on Facebook and on Instagram because of censorship, and they feel that conservative voices and conservative views were censored. This after having dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Trump, and an appearance on Fox News. He's going on Fox News. Now, this was the guy who banned Trump after January 6th from Facebook because of the misinformation, and also had concerns about misinformation that to tip the scales his way in the 2016 election. Trump was threatened that he was going to throw, if he could, he would throw Zuckerberg in prison for life. But now they're buddies. Zuckerberg has given $1 million to his inaugural fund. He's moving the because of the shit. What do you say? Because of the shifting political and social landscape and the desire to enhance free speech, he is moving the folks in his company who are responsible for policy and for moderation of the platform from California to Texas, in the interest of free speech and to make sure that there's not much bias. In Texas, who's banning books left and right.
Yes.
Texas is banning books left and right. You got Elon Musk, who's turned Twitter now into a propaganda machine for Trump. I read this right before we came on about Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos has paid Melania Trump $40 million for the exclusive rights to her biography, to her biographical documentary. Yeah, $40 million.
Please include those news photos when you was younger.
So basically, we have got the largest, some of the largest tech companies, and the heads of some of the largest tech companies have pretty much said we're all in for Trump now. We are in Trump's pocket. So you're talking about billions of people who are on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram who are now going to be subjected
to more misinformation,
right-wing misinformation and propaganda. One of the things that in the policy change at Meta, or is it Meta or Meta? M-E-T. How do you pronounce it? I always call it Meta.
Who cares?
Is the new policy allows users to disparage immigrants and, quote, allegations of mental illness or abnormality when based on gender or sexual orientation. So you're allowed to come on and say that kind of crap. And critics are saying that this is a green light for hate speech. You know,
absolutely.
Okay, so my question is, what do we do?
Stay
I mean, yeah,
Facebook.
I can boycott Twitter, but can you boycott Facebook? You know, and go where? Can you boycott Instagram?
Can I? Here's what's going to happen. You can say this is reality all you want online, then people go outside and then they see reality. They experience reality. So I honestly think more people I know are either going very private on Facebook, on social media, and staying with their friends and not going outside of it, or they're leaving Twitter. I mean, people have left Twitter in droves. I mean, millions of people, not just here in the States, but around the world have left Twitter. And you're seeing, and to me, it's like you're going to find out reality from reality. Reality is going to show you what reality is. Somebody could tell you it's not raining, but you go outside and you're soaked. You're going to figure it's raining. So that's what I think. You can only manipulate so much of reality before people understand, especially if there's a big shift, which I think they're going to try to do a big shift because of the fact that we're going into an authoritarian oligarchy with the billionaires.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's exactly it.
So that's going to affect everybody, financially, because, billionaires just want one thing, more billions. They don't, and that means less money for all of us. So they're not going to fix, as long as we're a democracy, we get a chance to get rid of these guys. And to me, we got 2 years. If we don't change things, especially if the Democratic Party doesn't become more populist, it doesn't see the writing on the wall there and stop and become more populist, we're got trouble. But we got 2 years. They got 2 years to raid the land, and they're going to do whatever they want to do.
Rape the land is the phrase.
Sexually assault the land.
I saw a clip that came across my feed last night of, I didn't see it when it happened. At least I don't remember it. It was from the Oscars when Jeff Bezos went to the Oscars, and Chris Rock and Steve Martin are on stage, and Chris Rock said that Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world at the time, and so rich that he got divorced. And he's still the richest man in the world.
Yeah,
that's how much money he's got.
It's a great joke.
It's a great joke, but it's the truth. I mean, these guys could pay their fair share and still be the richest people in the world. Explain that to me. I mean, I was reading a book on the men who built America. It was a documentary actually that I saw, and it was about Rockefeller and Carnegie and Vanderbilt, and they once caused a depression. They were responsible for a depression in the country by having a pissing match over who could be the richest person in the country. Just in terms of the things that they did and the people they put out of work and how they tried to screw each other's companies, they literally caused the depression. And I just, we're looking at a gilded age like that right now, I think.
I think so. I think Trump wants to kind of align himself into some weird royal family. The thing that scares me the most having kids is all the anti-vax stuff, the vilification of Fauci, who's got years of experience as an immunologist, and you get these pocket Joe Rogan guys, quackos that come on unopposed and say, ivermectin, blah, blah, blah. And then you get comedians going, I'm an individual because I'm not sucked into everything that everybody does. You mean like the scientists? Sorry to act like Bill Maher. Everybody's suddenly an expert, the Rob Schneiders of the world and the Jordan Petersons and the Musks who know nothing except how to buy companies. And we're not listening to science. Everybody, Bill Maher destroyed Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like, no, I saw that interview. He didn't. Neil deGrasse is trying to tell you that science isn't perfect. But most of the time, we will try to get it right. And unless you can convince 90% of us that the study that you just did is viable, then no, we won't accept it. It doesn't mean that we denounce something different. We go by the facts. And facts aren't sexy. Facts aren't, I'm the individual man. I'm not wearing a mask. 90% of the mandates were either wear a mask or, get vaccinated or weekly testing. That's what they always skip over. There were mandates, but but most of them where all you had to do was test weekly. You didn't have to you didn't have to take the shot. So things like that. There's so much information. I don't want my kids getting measles again. We're done with that. I don't want polio to come back. I don't want RFK who knows nothing. And Lawrence O'Donnell, he goes, he was sleeping when I was in class with him because he was a heroin addict. I don't care. He's not an immunologist. Fauci is an immunologist. What happened to us?
Fauci and Burke say that there are 100,000 people in America who died from COVID who didn't have to die.
Absolutely.
And they died because of information, public health information that was withheld by the Trump administration because they thought it would make Trump look bad. In terms of the briefings they were handing out day to day, the Trump administration would take the briefings and, Ron, we're crossing out this, we're crossing out this. I mean, could you imagine if masks had not been politicized? Could you imagine if masks had not been politicized? How different things would have been. How many people today who are dead who wouldn't be dead? Herman Cain, for God's sake.
Yeah, went to a rally in Tulsa. This is what I said. The task was to fill a bucket of water. That would have been full immunity. And then the far left, the Jimmy Dores of the world, started poking holes in the bucket, and the anti-vax things that a comic read a study and said, they're poking holes in it and say, see, it didn't work. Yeah, because you were poking holes in it. You weren't distancing, you weren't masking, and you weren't helping with the vaccination rates. Of course it didn't work. This magic thing called ivermectin. I'm sorry, is that small pharma, medium pharma, or big pharma? Which one is it? Because they're making money too. It just pissed me off. Bill Burr said it best. He's like, come on, Joe, we're freaking comics, right? We're not scientists. Am I going to listen to you? Give me a break. Bill Burr just nailed it.
So just back to your question, Brian, about fact checking and everything.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's as bad as social media in and of itself. It's a system where you go on there and you make an opinion, and anybody who disagreed with you is banished from your page or is belittled or jumped upon. And then
because they're wrong.
The computer tells you on Facebook, on whether it's Facebook or whether it's YouTube, says, he sort of likes this, so we'll only give him that. And so we end up in these smaller and smaller and smaller circles of like-minded people who pat each other on the back for how moral we are and how everything else we are. And we don't even see other people the Democrats are broken up in about 3 or 4 different groups. Carlos was talking about what has been called the top of the horseshoe. That idea the horseshoe is close at the top and then it gets wide at the bottom when it rounds up. So the left-wing crazies and the right-wing crazies are actually closer together than the left-wing crazies and the left-wing centrists.
That's a great analogy.
Social media just creates that. It just gives you what you want. Anybody who disagrees with anything, I've seen this last week. Someone posts, someone said, well, I don't agree with that. Well, get out of here. Screw you. This is my page and blow out of here. And I mean, so omission of opposing views is probably more important than anything. I go online when something happens and see if anybody on my Facebook feed, which is mostly left-wing Bay Area people, and nothing. A beautiful mansion, Bidwell Mansion, the sort of focal point of Chico, this sort of founder and historic guy, was burned to the ground, and it's just a terrible tragedy up there. And then they found the guy, caught him.
How? I never heard. Oh, it was arson.
Arson. Yeah, Bidwell Mansion was burned to the ground last week.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the town is in mourning, and it's a horrible thing. And there have been some signs, F-K colonialism sprayed on the signs approaching the place and everything else. Well, they caught the guy, and he's a far left anti-colonial. I don't see any of it on my Facebook feed. Now, let me ask you a question. If that was the home of a LGBTQ, the lesbian whatever from 1900 whatever, and a right-winger burned it, do you think my feed wouldn't be full of stuff?
Are you kidding?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Sure,
That's the problem. We're in our little cults, and you can't ever tell anybody in a cult anything other than what the cult believes.
Wants to hear. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it already is fact-checking. Omission is a form of fact-checking.
But I agree and disagree at the same time. I agree that because we're doing it right here. Johnny, you're a little more right than I thought you were, and I'm fine with it because I'm learning your point of view, and you're doing it. You're coming from a place of a really careful thought, and I'm enjoying our conversation.
No, I'm banning him. I'm banning him from the show and everything else.
Wait a minute.
He's too far to the right. I don't want to hear his opinion.
But the problem with a lot of the stuff where people either get unfriended or blocked or stuff like that is when you come on and you're giving blatant misinformation. And it's also that kind of information that's on a hamster wheel where I'm not going to have this argument for the 30th time about COVID or Monica Lewinsky or whatever the hell it is, whatever you want to bring up again, so I've asked you not to do this and you're doing it again. Yep. So that's, to me, is that's pointless discourse. I appreciate different viewpoints or different ideas that will move the needle forward. What I don't appreciate is BS and blatant, what's the word I'm looking for? Propagandized and
misinformation. Or disinformation. Is it misinformation or disinformation?
So yes, having a conversation, which is what we used to be able to do. I mean, Nixon, during Nixon's time, wasn't like the House Speaker or the Democrat and the Republican. I forget Kip O'Neill.
Tip O'Neill, but that's Reagan. That was during the Reagan years.
Everybody was
talking. Tip O'Neill was a Democrat, and the House was Democratic, and they would argue and debate, and then he and Reagan would have a drink.
I'll flip Johnny's point. You just had the thing happen in New Orleans, and immediately Trump gets on board and says, "This anti-immigrant." Look what Timothy McVeigh did. He blew up 163 people with a truck,
including a daycare center with toddlers.
You think that guy was Arab? You think I'm going to flip it on Johnny? How do you think the right would talk about that? Look what the guy in Vegas did. Shot 58 people at a country club. If that guy was Arab, how do you think they would react about that? So you can go to
Wikipedia right now or any other group and look at terrorist attacks around the world and see who the leading organization. It's not Quakers. It's not right-wing Americans. It's not left-wing Americans.
In our country,
I'm talking about in America.
Globally,
but I'm talking about our country. So
in America, on American soil.
So I do want to pose that same question.
911, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, well, had Timothy McVeigh been an Arab, do you think how the media reacted would have been far worse than he was white?
Well, he was executed, I will point out.
But
I'm going to agree with the media didn't react as horribly as something like a 9/11.
I'm going to agree with Johnny, but I'm going to put.
Hang on a sec. Nobody can hear if we're all talking at the same time. Tom.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with Johnny. I just want to say, but I want to put a caveat on it where it's religious extremism.
Sure.
Religious worldwide. I don't care if you take the. Whatever you take, the color of the skin or the religion or whatever, it's extremism in religions that cause all this stuff. There's not an atheist group that's going around terrorize. They're a terrorist group.
Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris.
Yeah. So yes, I agree with Johnny, but I put the caveat on this is based on religious extremism.
Okay, but wait a
everywhere.
minute. Now, Tim, as I recall, I don't remember what the motive was. It's been so long, but Timothy McVeigh,
Waco, Texas.
was that what it was? It was
Yeah.
it was payback for Waco.
Yep.
Anti-government in
Yeah.
general, anti-federal.
And all that stuff. They hated
But he
Janet
was
Reno.
also a
Janet
Christian.
Reno was the devil.
But
As far
we
as
didn't
they
have
were
a
concerned.
president in charge that would have tried to manipulate that for gain.
Yeah.
And that's the difference now, is that we do live in a culture, right, Johnny, where Johnny talked about it, and he's correct, where you can exploit opinions based on ideas and information with this horseshoe analogy. But now we have a president and a team with Musk that preys on that. And that's the danger.
But
That's the danger of putting Trump.
there's still bias everywhere. So when gay people are Republicans, every liberal denounces them, and it's the old chickens for Kentucky Fried and everything else. But there's a group called Queers for Palestine. You couldn't have a more misinformed organization on earth. And
It doesn't mean they want to. It doesn't mean they want to live there. It means that they empathize with a cause which is different from their own. It doesn't necessarily. I get what you're saying. It's hypocritical.
They'd be dead in 5 minutes in Palestine.
It's like smokers for cancer, but no, it's like but they're emphasizing. It might be that's like straight people black people for apartheid. It doesn't, that's what your analogy is making. It doesn't.
Beers for the NRA.
Somebody could be queer and empathize with a cause that is different from their own cause and not want to live where they live. They're not talking about.
Here's the problem with that sentence. You're using the word different. Not different, directly opposed to the point where they'd kill you. I can talk to somebody who's a vegan and I'm a vegetarian or vice versa. We're not directly opposed and he doesn't want to kill me.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the justification for those people that are being killed by, some people would argue, white colonialism is okay because they treat gay people badly. They're two separate issues.
They don't treat them badly.
But it's two separate issues,
It's
Johnny. Somebody could be gay
death.
or a queer in the United States and openly say to you, I know I couldn't live in Palestine, but I can still empathize with the way they're treated.
I can empathize with people who would kill me if they saw me and knew what I was.
Yeah, I can empathize with that. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't want to go live there. I know they would treat me badly, but what's happening to them, the way their land is getting stolen, I don't support that. I support that part of that being treated better, because you're saying that every single Palestinian would want to kill them. There's gay Palestinians that wouldn't want to kill them. There's probably children Palestinians that wouldn't want to kill them.
The Quran is perfectly clear about what to do with gay people.
Yeah, but so the Bible and Quran are. I agree with Tom. It's all mythology that I don't agree with.
Where are the Christians around the world killing gay people? They've had a referendum. They've had a reformation on that thousands of years ago, and it's hundreds of years ago. It's.
I don't agree with any of the
conversation, but
let me.
But you still.
I'm gonna cut it off for a second.
Still doesn't answer the question, the query that I made, which is it possible for somebody to be empathetic to a cause that differentiates with how some portion of that group of people would treat them? And I think it is possible. So when you say, how could you queers be for Palestine? It is entirely possible to support something with disparate kind of, not disparate, but
called nuance.
Well, you know what? The election of Trump is actually makes your point. It's a perfect example of that. There's so many people who say, I've heard say, I don't like him. I know what kind of man he is. I know what kind of person he is, but I don't like what's in my wallet and what's in my bank account. Sure. So I'm voting for him anyway. So I mean, that's a perfect example of that. People who are looking at somebody who's diametrically opposed to them in terms of how they live their lives. I wouldn't
hire him. I wouldn't let him near my daughter, but I'll vote for him as first president of the United States.
Yeah.
It's very simple, Brian. It's this. I think I said it earlier. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. They don't vote for him because they like him. They vote for him in spite of him. They don't necessarily believe everything he says, but he is the only person they know who's running, who's saying the stuff that you really don't like and are kind of afraid of and you don't want coming to your town. I'm against it too.
But by that
but-
logic, you should
and
just go
that's-
ahead and vote for any Satan rapist. Just like I'm
Or
Satan.
rapist either.
A rapist. By that
Raping-
logic, you don't have to
raping is
have
a
any
crime.
qualifications. All you have to do is just lie to people and you can get elected,
All right,
I'm
that was a
Satan,
question.
I'm going to
That
kill
was-
babies, but I'm going to make your wallet better. Okay.
That is a question I'm asking here too. With this election now, the first election, you can almost give people a pass because they didn't know what they were getting. They may have had an idea based on his behavior in the campaign in 2016, but they really didn't know. Okay, we've had 4 years of this hell. And you knew exactly what it is that you were getting. So why would you go back and why would you do it again? So that being the case,
You're
do
afraid.
you think that his election and re-election is going to be seen as a turning point to where there is a lowering of the bar of what it takes to win elective office in this country? I mean, I remember when Gary Hart got blown out of the presidential race for simply having a picture of a blonde in a bikini.
Howard Dean for screaming.
For screaming.
Jimmy Carter said he had lusted in his mind in a Playboy interview. He'd lusted in my mind.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he dropped in ratings, dropped down, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
That's right. So do you think it's a permanent lowering of the bar? That
Yes.
people in the future will look back at this as the turning point, which is why, people have always said politicians are bozos. Well, now they're really going to be bozos. I mean, how the hell is Marjorie Taylor Greene even in the United States Congress? Explain that to me. And Matt Gaetz finally,
Lord
at least
Boebert. Matt
sit down.
Gaetz.
Oh, Boebert. Yeah. I mean, it's just we're so tribalistic. Really, is the best word to use. You know, Boebert is in Congress because she moved. She had to move because she knew she'd lose in her own district. So she moved to a district where they'll vote for you no matter what, as long as there's an R after your name on the ballot.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, is that the country that we're going to live in? I got a little granddaughter, man. My little granddaughter is 2 years old, and I look at her and I play with her and I think about, my God, what is this world going to look like for her?
But the flip side is I agree with Johnny. If you have liberal policies that are going to tear down a Walgreens where my family can't go to the Walgreens anymore,
I agree.
I'm not going to vote for you. I'm going to vote for my guy, and Stephen A. Smith has jumped on board finally. My guy is in 2024 was Wes Moore. And I think Wes Moore in 2028, he's the governor of Maryland. He's young, military combat. He's articulate. He's smart. He's moderate, probably closer to center. He's worked literally is rags to riches. And I think he's smart. That's my guy. That's the type of candidate that I could get behind. That being said, if the devil, Trump, to me, it's not subjective. Trump is objectifiably evil, stupid, and dangerous.
Yeah.
No reason to vote for him. I don't
vote
care
for
how
Mitt
scared
Romney.
you are.
If
I don't
Mitt
care
Romney
how
was a
poor you
Democratic
are.
candidate
Bad
against
move. So Wes Moore is my guy, but anybody that runs against Trump or anybody affiliated with Trump is going to be my person.
Oh, it's going to be Vance. They're going to set up J.D. Vance to be
I think
the
Wes Moore
Santa
could beat
Bear.
him.
Yeah,
Pardon?
he doesn't have
I think
any
Wes Moore
charisma.
could beat him.
Who?
Well, I
Wes
thought he
Moore,
presented
governor
well.
of Maryland.
We're talking about if he ran against Vance. Let me switch gears.
Can I answer that question, Brian?
Wait, hang on a second. Let's switch gears. There are a couple of things here I wanted to make sure that we got to today. One of them is Trump wanting to buy Greenland.
Yeah.
And he wants it because of the mineral resources. I mean, really, that's it. It's for the mineral resources. And it's in the Atlantic and closer to New York than it is to Copenhagen, because Denmark, controls, it's part of Denmark. So the question is this. You've got Denmark saying today or yesterday that they were going to increase defense spending by, quote, double-digit billions they're going to use at Greenland in order to increase the defense. And the fact that Trump has no handcuffs now, he doesn't have to worry about public opinion at all because he's not going to run again. The Supreme Court has said that anything that he does while he's in office counts. He's completely immune from. Do you think that there is a possibility that we are going to go to war at or over Greenland? I mean, if you had to say, would you say 50-50? Would you say 75? Would you say 10%? If you're guessing,
We went over war over Grenada. Remember the doctor stuck in Grenada and Reagan invaded them?
Yeah.
If Trump had balls, he'd say we're getting Cuba. Shut up, Cubans. We're taking Cuba. But of course he wouldn't do that because the Cubans would vilify him. But no,
this
I
is
don't think
you're
we're going
talking
to go to
about
war.
colonialism and American imperialism. I mean, this is it. I
Yeah.
mean, this is all part of that
Well, this
manifest
is
destiny stuff.
This is another thing that would, to me, break his a lot of his hold on a lot of people, because he ran on, I'm the guy who doesn't start wars,
Anti-war guy.
and another, which would break that. You're starting a war. So, but again, he doesn't care.
No, and it doesn't matter, Tom.
2 years of green lights across the board. He's got a corrupt Supreme Court. He's got the Senate. He's got the lunatic House. He's got it all. The only stopgap we have is in the House, because there are going to be about 15 or 20 Republicans who have a really good shot at losing their seat if they go back this guy and he goes completely nuts. Mm-hmm. So that's the only place that he gets a possible red light. Everywhere else is all green.
He's talked about nuking hurricanes. He's talked about nuking drug dealers. Do you think if in fact he did start something with Greenland, do you think that he would actually do it? Do you think he would be the first president's instrument to actually drop a nuclear bomb on somebody? I mean, he talks about it, but a lot of stuff he says, of course, is bluster. Do you think he would do it? Because there's nobody who. That's the whole thing. Loyalty is the first test to be a part of his administration. That's it. It's a loyalty oath. You're loyal to him and not to the country. So nobody's going to stop him. Nobody's going to stop. He doesn't have the safeguards that he had, the guardrails he had the first time, with people who would keep him away, from his what do they call it? His
but the other thing we have to remember, though, is one is he doesn't. He's only got 4 years, and two, he's about money and power. So he's doing it right now. Bezos is giving Melania $40 million. He's got probably other billionaires that are writing checks left and right. He's going to come out of there with hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, and that's all he wants.
He's selling Victory Cologne.
Yeah,
right now.
He's still a grifter. He will figure out any way he can grift a dollar. He has no pride. He has no dignity whatsoever. He will, if you give him $1 billion to pose with a clown's penis on a board, like at the carnival, he would be doing that. Yeah, $500 a pop. I'll suck the clown off, and the fake clown, and so he doesn't care. He wants money and power. So it's like Putin. Everybody was going, if we try to stop Putin in Ukraine, he's going to start World War III. No, he's a billionaire. He doesn't want to spend the rest of his life in a bunker, because no matter how much money you have, you can't make a bunker that nice.
Okay, under this administration, does Putin fully take Ukraine?
They're fighting back, and NATO's trying to help them in Germany, and I think that's what he wanted. I think that's what he always wanted.
You think Trump will pull us out of NATO?
Probably. And we'll be isolationist.
I think there's still a lot of, also you have to remember, there's still a lot of people in the Senate, that I think would oppose him on that.
Yeah.
Okay, but even on the Republican side, I mean, that's death to oppose him on the Republican side.
Yeah, but also you got to remember, there's always a number of senators that are close to death because they're so freaking old. So
on your previous question, I think Tom and you, Brian, both answered the own question. Mostly, Tom's talking about power and money. He's got power. He's got a lot of money. You know what he wants more than anything else? Attention.
Yeah.
Attention.
Look at me.
And how do you get attention? Saying and doing crazy crap. Bureaucracy, the dragging the plow through the sort of red tape of government. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear about that. Crazy crap. He just feels he would have been a great comedian. He can't shut up and not be in the limelight. He's got to be in the limelight. So more than anything else, we may, 3 months from now, we go, what was that whole thing with Greenland again? I mean, I don't know. I hope. I think
I
needs
agree,
to be on camera.
No,
he wants to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Did you read that?
Yeah.
I thought he wanted to change it to the Gulf of America.
Yeah. Well, none of that. Being half Italian, it's an Italian name, by the way. It's an Italian guy. So America is Italian.
A mighty guy.
Yeah. Medica Vespucci or something like that.
Amerigo Vespucci.
Yeah, Amerigo Vespucci. I should know this. I'm Sicilian and Italian on the other half. But yeah, so yeah, he's going to give it an Italian name. But so I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're recording this on Wednesday, and this will drop, and folks are watching and listening to this on Thursday. So today, Thursday, is the date of Jimmy Carter's funeral. So, just quickly, your thoughts on Carter and Carter's legacy. I'll start by telling you, I had the pleasure of meeting him once. It was during my very first appearance on the Fox Morning Show that I ended up doing for 5 years, my very, very first one. And I walk into the green room, and there's all this Secret Service around, and he walks right through and walks up to me, shakes my hand. Hi, I'm Jimmy Carter. Like, I have no idea who he is.
Wow.
And I tell him, he asked me what I'm doing on the show, and I'm doing a commentary today, and blah, blah, blah. And he asked me to tell him about it. I told him there's jokes. He laughs. And he was I had about 20 minutes with him. And just a really great down-to-earth guy, whereas Trump's former president, when Trump is officially an ex-president, can't run again, he's not, you think he'll be building houses for Habitat for Humanity or trying to feed people who are hungry, or, they say that Carter's the best ex-president that we ever had.
He's probably, to all those evangelical Christians on the right, the most Christ-like figure of a president that we've ever had. Kind, smart, intelligent, Annapolis, Maryland, naval veteran, just really a thinker. Wrote the book, something about his book about the Middle East, something, not this, apartheid or whatever it was called, when he visited Israel, his thoughts about how people lived. So yeah, I think it's sad. He should be revered, but in today's politics, not even Reagan would come out of the Republican primaries. The guy who lied about the Iran-Contra plan October and said, don't release the hostages until I get after elected. So, yeah, by comparison, Carter wasn't perfect, but dang, great human being.
Tom?
Yeah, I agree. Great human being. And I also think you're cutting some FDR slack. You need to cut FDR some slack because he didn't have a chance to be a great guy after he was president. Yeah. So, but Carter, I think, was just awesome. As a person, as a president, I just think he didn't have the killer instinct as a leader. And I think that, that's true to me when the fact that Teddy Kennedy ran against him in the primaries and really screwed up anybody's chances of beating Reagan because they had damaged each other so badly.
Yeah.
And but I just don't think that Carter had that killer instinct. I think he was a great human being, though. I think he really proved, especially after the fact, that what a great human being he is.
Yep.
Johnny?
The thing about that election, and that also happened, what I'm about to say also happened with Kennedy and Nixon, which is that the challenger, let's go back to just Carter and Reagan. Carlos may have had a joke about this. I remember something about, but Carter was basically saying, hey, sometimes times are tough and, interest rates are high. I know that, but put a few logs on the fireplace and put on a jacket or whatever. And we've got some, tough things to work through. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Yeah. And then Reagan came up there and what was the famous line? There you go again. Yeah. And Reagan was like Trump. Reagan was the most like Trump guy we have, although Reagan spent years as a governor and, the head of the Screen Actors Guild. Yeah. So, but he did understand the value of looking good on the camera. Like, and I don't know if any of you have ever read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Sure.
Straight out of that book. You don't argue with them. You don't tell them they're wrong. You manipulate people to an extent, in a way. And I remember that as a kid, what were we, 18? I'm 64 now. Yeah. We were like 18 or 20 when that happened. And I remember saying, this is a monumental change. Well, here you go again, and Shining Hill. And it was very like Trump, very simple terms, very simple, the evil empire and the shining beacon on the hill and all this kind of stuff. And I just knew that was a change in the way politics were going to be from then on.
Okay. So Carter. Yeah. Again, your thoughts on Carter?
Yeah, my thoughts on Carter. I read a couple of his books, and it's funny because we're talking about Trump now. if you ever have a chance to dig up a copy of, I think it's called An Hour Before Dawn or something like that, about living on a farm in Georgia and working 15-hour days and having no money. And what little money you did have, you helped the other people, or you went to the local church and helped people through that. I mean, it's a really incredible book. I stumbled across it in like a used bookstore for $2 and I snagged it up and I bored through it. It's an incredible book. So just how incredibly different, Carlos, I think may have said that, what an incredible different human being he was than this chucklehead we have now. And back to Carlos or Tom or whoever. Yeah. How do you what do you do when the guy who wins is not a good human being for most people? He's not willing to hear other arguments. He's not willing to engage. He's not willing to bend over and and pull somebody up in the whatever they were growing, peanut field or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, great guy. I never got a chance to see him.
Kind. He's not. He is, like I said. He is the 7 deadly sins with legs. He is everything that you could be. That's anti-kindness, anti-humanistic. He is a total narcissist.
Yep. That is one of the things that I worry about in terms of the second president, in terms of the first one. But the second presidency especially is, like Carlos, you have young kids. And I've, as I said, I've got a 2-year-old granddaughter I spend a lot of time with. And how do you teach children that they're supposed to be kind? They should be empathetic, that they should tell the truth, that they shouldn't be mean to people, that you don't make fun of people who are handicapped, that you help people who need help and you don't demonize them. How do you do that when their leader, this is what their leader does? We grew up at a time when, well, actually, other than the Nixon presidency, we were supposed to try to emulate the president. He was supposed to be among the best of us, which is why he was leading us. And Trump is not the best of Trump. By the way, the word is that he's very upset that the flags are going to be flown at half staff for Jimmy Carter during his inauguration.
This is the guy that had This is the guy that had John McCain's boat, whatever, covered when he went to Japan. You got to cover it. Yeah, so it is hard to teach children to be empathetic, but Johnny had intimated it a while ago. Get him in sports. Sports is a way to build teamwork, to build cooperation, to build understanding. Riley will come home from volleyball practice and go, well, I hit better than that other player. I go, Riley, what did that coach tell you? He's looking for a teammate that lifts up other teammates. So even in that small microcosmic world of sports, you can teach them there to have some value. You certainly can't tell them to look towards the television or the news or social media to find any redeeming qualities really of anybody, because it's not, as Johnny said, it's not designed for that. But yeah, what do you tell? Study hard, be a good person, and travel the world and be measured and read books, and maybe someday you could be president. It's like, you don't need to do any of that. Just go to Mar-a-Lago and give the guy $1 million. It's sad. We have become valueless, and maybe we were always that. Maybe I remember Bill Hicks doing a thing about when Kennedy got shot. Oh, when Camelot came apart. Oh, but Bill, they're lying to us. Yeah, we were always lying to you. So maybe we were always that, and we dreamed that we were better than this. Because yes, Bill Clinton did do Paula Jones. Bill Clinton did have this affair in the White House, so nobody was perfect, but it seems like we've gone farther into the abyss in terms of imperfect human beings running our country. So
this is more than an imperfect human being. I mean, you keep talking about Bill Clinton, but what Bill Clinton did was between him and his wife. Period. Absolutely. Having an affair is between that's between you and your wife. Raping somebody is against raping or sexually assaulting somebody is a crime against society. There's a big difference between those two things.
There was a fairly decent list of women who claimed that it was not between Bill and his wife, that it was sexual assault at very least, or sexual harassment.
Juanita Broderick, I know you're talking that there have been allegations.
Sexual harassment, sure, but also sexual assault claims. Now, we don't know what happened, but those were claims.
That being said, I don't think Clinton is as horrible a human being as Trump.
God, no, not even close.
Who cares?
It's
what the contest is. If you're in the horrible human being category, and we're just rating you there, you shouldn't be in that category.
If you're playing connections, Trump is purple and Clinton is yellow. But I will say, people out there.
But I will say both of them have been to Epstein's Island, and I don't care if you go to Epstein's Island and you were there and you saw what was happening for an hour, and you didn't go and lock yourself in the room and take the first flight that was leaving the island, you're out. You're guilty.
Hey, boss, there's Donald and Bill.
Yeah, it's always cracks me up when Alan Dershowitz says, I had my underwear on when the 16 or 17-year-old girl was giving me a massage. Yeah. So, no, dude, you're wrong. Yeah. You should shut the fuck up because you're just digging your hole a little deeper. If you go to that island twice, you're guilty.
Yeah.
You could accidentally find yourself on that island.
Yeah. But
with that, guys, we're out of time. We're out of time with that. I do want to end with this. A dear friend and colleague of all of ours in the comedy community passed away over the weekend. Jim Short, who was a brilliant comic. I used to like to have him open for me because it meant I had to work. It meant that I had to work hard in order to, or I would not follow him. I mean, this brilliant, and it's heartbreaking. 58 years old. All the details of his death are not out. But I just wanted to talk about him for a second. We all knew him. Tom, you booked him when you had Cobb's Comedy Club. Anything you'd like to say?
I one of the nicest guys, and one of the a little crazy too, because he was one of those guys.
We all are
one of those guys that had if he had a grudge, whether you deserved it, whether it deserved or something he just took the wrong way. It was like getting a chew toy out of a Doberman's mouth,
out of Johnny's dog's mouth.
Yeah, because he was a little crazy in that area. I know so many people out there, that are very sad of his passing that he wouldn't talk to anymore because, and they tried numerous times to reach out to the dude and make amends on what he thought was a problem, or at least talk to him, have a conversation. But that said, I mean, when he was one of the nicest, kindest guys, he would give you the shirt off his back, and he was a killing machine. I on the showcase nights, I could close the show with him. I'd always tell him, do as long as you want, man. Cause I knew he would just do great. And he would bring class to any show he was booked on.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a quick funny story. So I was partly instrumental for bringing him out here. I was working Texas for the Improv, and I was in Dallas and their neighboring club, Addison, and I met this guy, Robert Hawkins, one of the funniest guys I'd ever seen.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. And I met Robert Hawkins, and I said, you got to get to San Francisco. And he was best friends with Jim Short, and they palled around all the time. And so Robert said, well, it's expensive there. If there's ever a place, give me a call. Well, in my apartment, somebody moved out. I called. Robert came out and was my roommate, and Jim more or less followed him or came out. So I was sort of instrumental, and I sort of invited him out here, and we're getting Robert out here. And so that was, the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
But he's a pretty good ad-libber too, because I had a joke about performing at San Quentin prison, and I tried to put the joke away, and every time I do a show, somebody wanted to hear the joke again. So, okay, I'll do the joke. People come, they pay their money. Okay, I'll do the joke. What do I care? So I do the routine. The guy comes up after and says, hey man, I love that San Quentin joke. That's a great joke. And Jim Short was standing next to me. He said, and the funny thing is, when Johnny first did that at San Quentin, many of those people have now been let out of prison. That joke is so
nice. Yeah.
What's the joke? You can't talk about the joke and not tell the joke. What's the joke?
Well, that was basically the gist of it. It was like, I don't want to say that San Quentin joke is old, but most of the people who were in the audience that day have long since been let out of prison. They're free now. He was mocking how old the joke was. I was still doing a joke 12 years later. Yeah. I had to laugh right then and there.
In a weird psychic world, I remember Jim being very kind and a listener, which is rare for comics. He would listen to you. But the way he said commercial, because of his Australian accent, I think, commercial. And now years later, for some strange reason, my youngest daughter says commercial. And maybe I'd like to think that there's a little connection there, that somehow that word made its way from Jim Short into my youngest daughter's mouth, even though it was before his passing. But a sweet guy.
Or Jim is really secretly your father and you just don't know.
Probably is.
If anybody out there is interested, he did a Letterman appearance 15 years ago or something, and you can find that easily online. Yeah. He also did a podcast with Margaret Cho for a few years, and that is probably available out there. Mm-hmm. He also did some funny sketches. The internet was perfect for Jim because he could sort of lock himself in his room, which he wanted to do anyway, and he became really good at sort of, editing and Final Cut Pro and that. And he did a funny Scrooge, Christmas Carol snippet, and some other stuff where it's really decent quality stuff. That's on. Go to YouTube. He had a YouTube channel. You can see those sketches there.
Yeah. Thank you.
right.
Yeah. Johnny
All
and
right.
everybody.
Anything you guys want to plug, Carlos?
Yeah, you know
coming
what? May 14 through 16, I'll be in Miami for a Miami Anime Con. If you want to look at my con schedule, it's on my Instagram at carlosalazraqui.com. More rock, paper, scissors on Nickelodeon. Still doing the SpongeBob with Tom Kenny. And that's about it. Burbank dad, trying to stay in shape by swimming. And it was nice being on the horseshoe with you guys today.
Oh, by the way, how far away from the fires are you?
We're okay. Altadena, Chandler Park, so 15, 17 miles away. We're
Can you see
lucky.
the smoke?
We got this nice little bubble here so far, so we're good.
Can you see the smoke, or is the air quality?
Oh yeah, it was like the Oakland fires. Remember the Oakland fires in the 90s?
Yeah.
Much like that. The sky is just obscured, and it's beautiful, albeit unhealthy, but gorgeous to look at. But we're fine. Thank you.
All right, Johnny. Anything? Yeah, I know you got stuff coming up.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, I don't know when people are going to be watching this, but
Thursday.
In this month of January, I'm at the Punchline with Robert Hawkins. I'm thinking of old friends. Old school comedy blowout with Michael Meehan and Larry Brown. And then, Tommy of Tommy T's. We all remember Tommy of Tommy T's. He's now booking comedy at the Orinda Theater. They have a 160-seat room next door.
I'm going to be emceeing for him. I'm working on some new stuff. I'm putting together new hours, so I'm going to come in and MC some of the shows on weekends order to.
Well, I'm there. I think
my chops back.
I think the first weekend of February, and then I'm at the Village Theater doing my annual Valentine's show, and then finally, after years, I have a friend, and she looked at my website. So, what are you, Amish? What is going on here? So I've got an actual bona fide corporate social media marketing, branding, and graphics person.
Who's cute. Who's very cute, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, well, she's kind of not bad looking. And Nick does a funny thing. Nick, come here. Nick, I'll show you. Nick is doing a lot of videos. Nick.
And Johnny's selling unpasteurized milk at his shows.
Yeah, right. Nick.
Dog milk.
He does a lot of things except come when you call him.
Come here. Watch. Let me show you. I'll show you what Nick does. Gentle. Hey, Nick, what do you think of Donald Trump being president? he goes crazy on command virtually. So I've done 100 videos. It started with our friend Michael Pritchard. Hey, gentle. Michael Pritchard walked up to Comedy Day, and I had Nick, and Michael's so nice. If you don't know Michael Pritchard, listeners or viewers, he's
my daughter's godfather.
Sweet, kind guy. And he walks up and he goes, Johnny, it's so good to see you. And I just looked down at Nick and I said, Nick, rather than stay here at Comedy Day with all these talented people and the beautiful sunshine and food laying all over the floor for you to pick up under the barbecue, why don't we go home and watch some old Michael Pritchard VHS tapes and comedy tapes? And Nick just goes, and Michael just started sobbing. So we made a bunch of videos of Nick snapping. Those will be on the new website and everything.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking about my 2-year-old granddaughter. My daughter did a video of her. She asked her, "What do you think about the new president? What do you think about Donald Trump being president?" She's 2. She goes, "No, no." Well, wait a minute. He might be a good president. No.
Yeah. What do you think about Verlander coming over for a single year for the Giants? No.
No.
Yeah. All
right, Carlos Alazraqui, Johnny Steele, and Tom Sawyer, who's a part of this whole mess. Thank you. Thanks, guys, for doing this, and I hope you come back and see us again soon. There's going to be lots that we're going to be talking about over the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of, as long as we're allowed to.
Check out that governor from Maryland, Wes Moore. Let's learn more about him.
I will. Actually, I will.
Cool.
I don't know very much about him at all. I've heard the name, but I don't know much about him or his records. I'll check it out. Well, I forgot to plug my thing, too, and that is... on January 20th, if you are in Marin County in Northern California, I will be at the Marin Civic Center with my show, The Great American Shit Show. And it is a series of monologues on life in the age of Trump. Although now I have changed it, and we're calling it The Great American Shit Show, The Resistance Begins. And I'm going to try to do one of these shows at a different venue around, first around the Bay Area, then hopefully around the state and around the country, one a month. And it'll be a living, breathing organism that changes as things change in Washington, and what, there'll be a daily outrage if it's like the last time, I'm sure. So tickets, if you want tickets, there's a link at my website, which is briancopeland.com. You can always see where I'm going to be performing at briancopeland.com.
And my website is www.tomsawyervoices.com.
That's right. Tom, the master of voiceover work, so check him out as well. All right, guys, thank you. We'll catch you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.